It's without fail that every violent man is a rapist, but let's check this guy out. He enjoys hurting people. Cops punch people he pulled over. Shared photos with glee of those he injured. Why do you think he got that job to begin with? He's gonna come out and be like, I'm here to protect the public. Yes. Okay. He's a sheriff. You know, they have their own rules and laws, right? Remember that? Okay. In Kentucky, who prosecutors say targeted people smaller and weaker than himself. I would be mad if I was one of his victims and they're trying to paint me as weaker. Saying that he went after some people that he views. I say it like this because it's more accurate this way. People that he views as being weaker than himself, or somebody that he feels is a challenge or a threat to their being. It's those things. It doesn't mean the victim is actually weaker than the perpetrator, narcissist, sociopath, but that's their mentality of how they view people. So yeah, I take offense to that right there. Okay. Then himself, before he punched or assaulted them during routine traffic stops. It's like your tail light is out, and then he beats the crap out of you, and it's like, what the? Okay, so he's been sentenced to a little over 9 years in prison. I don't think that's enough because I don't think that this guy, number one, he's not fixable. This guy is absolutely on no level fixable. So in 9 years, he's not going to be a different human being. It's just not going to happen. He's going to pretend, but he's a danger to the public. So then they go, a jury found Tanner of Danville, once a deputy at the Boyle County Sheriff Office, guilty of multiple charges, including 4 counts of violating constitutional rights. I mean, haven't they all? A single charge of conspiracy and a single charge of falsifying records. Okay, he's only 31. Okay, anyway, he was fired in 2021 after posting the identity of a confidential informant on Facebook upon discovering that person had criticized him on social media. This is a typical narcissist right here because they're like, somebody criticized me, so I'm going to retaliate. This is these guys. It's like them every day. And it's not a thing where it's like they're outing the informant because the informant is criminal, is they're outing the informant because they're being critical of him. I just kind of want to make some clarity on that because there's sometimes like there's these informants I was talking about them and they're total criminals, and then they go on this protection thing of those people and then they rape some kids and did drug deal, this whole other thing. That's kind of a different story because you're talking about the informant being a total criminal. It's just the informant here is doing this thing. And so he purposely is retaliating. So there's a retaliation thing on social media. So he had first joined the sheriff's office in 2017 after working as a pizza delivery driver. I'm not going to knock that job. But did he beat up people that he served pizza to? He's probably that jerk. One time I ordered from, what's that? Papa John's. And that's the only and last time I will ever order from Papa John's. So one time I ordered Papa John's and there was a special. I never tried them. I'm like, well, let me try them because everybody's saying how great they are. And I'm a Domino's girl. So I ordered from them and I ordered my typical, I said something about meat, cheese, and some bullshit. And it comes and I go to eat it and there's literally no meat in it. None. Like they just forgot to do it, whatever the hell it is. So I called and the guy goes like this. It was the most insane response from Papa John, from any pizza place. He's like, oh, the meat is really small. Like you could barely see it. And I'm like, what? And so anyway, they go, okay, we'll send you another one out. Like they didn't want to. They were being smartass. And they sent me the wrong next pizza. Twice. And so that was the last of it. I will never, to this day, order from Papa John's because of that shit. That guy should have been fired. Like, I've never heard that before. It's so small that you can't even see it. I'm sure that their upper head people there in management would have loved that one. Maybe it was this guy. I was like, and he's gonna come and beat me up after he delivers the second one. This would be this guy though. I wouldn't trust him with that job. Because it's like the minute that a customer would have an issue, this is his actions is I'm going to beat you up. It is. So he's not safe at any job. Okay, so a series of formal complaints about Abbott's conduct while he wore a badge prompted what would be a 2-year-long investigation by FBI. Why FBI? See, FBI get in whenever, I don't know, around him. Kentucky State Police. So he would not face charges until 2023, and he was tried and convicted by a jury in March. Okay, before we continue, this personality trait right here, you already know he's a rapist. Like, you don't even need any further information. Because he's telling you, I do not respect any other human. I'm violent. I will do retaliations, and I'm a rapist. Like, this is their typical thing. So I don't need other information to know that he's a rapist. And now watch. It's going to start getting into something. And this is how I read these people, and I'm spot on. It's never been wrong. And the reason why I'm now understanding it a lot more is because I know all this information. I've been collecting it forever, and I've been going through so many cases. I go, oh, these are the signs. Because this is the personality trait. This is the personality trait. But what? So, instead of protecting the serving and the community, the defendant was physically abusing people, even bragging about the injuries he's caused. And that is not the law enforcement. Yeah, it is. That is brazen criminal conduct. And yeah, we call you guys a bunch of criminals. So those things go together. Okay, the community deserved better. Fortunately, he is now has a criminal sentence that he deserves. I think he deserves more because it gets worse. In the sentencing memorandum filed by a federal prosecution in May, extensive details about violent episodes were unraveled. During the arrest, one person identified only as WW. The victim said that he had fully planned on cooperating with police when Abbott pulled him over, but he grew agitated when Abbott unnecessarily squeezed his testicles. Dude. Okay, so video evidence. Now, you know what? We should really look at this right here. It's kind of something we haven't really focused in on. And I have been focused in on now men sexually abusing other men. But not necessarily in the context of the police doing stuff like this. This could be more common than we know, because this is the personality trait and they're the ones that do this shit to us, right? So in that whole scheme of everything with cops, we don't know how many have been giving them little squeezes on stops because they're not saying anything. So yeah, that thing right there. Okay, so then he goes, video evidence confirmed WW was peaceful during the arrest, but as soon as he turned his head to say something to Abbott, after his testicles were squeezed, Abbott punched him in the face. And then it says investigators said what they found in the video and descriptions of what happened to WW credible because several of Abbott's colleagues also confirmed that Abbott's frequently conduct excessively intrusive searches on male suspects' groins as a way of asserting dominance. Yeah, so why do you think that men rape us? Okay, so there's this mentality to it. So that's why I was like, you should know right away when they're violent, they're rapists. So he's excessively intrusive. Okay, asserting his dominance, and it's not about sex. It's like he's asserting his dominance, you deserve it, and he's going to make you comply and sexually abuse you. It's this whole thing. This is their mind. This is your brain on socio. Okay, particularly when those suspects were mouthy or disrespectful. So if you're mouthy and disrespectful, I'm going to sexually abuse you. Yeah, so when us women speak to these men and they start feeling like, he's going to go, I got to show my dominance, and they come and rape us, right? Or they come and do very vindictive behaviors. And this is what rape is about. It's this thing right here. And so, and then he gets turned on by being a horrific monster. Okay, so investigators say that they learned that multiple other men Abbott had arrested had lodged complaints about excessive touching to their genitals. Along the lines, a text message entered into evidence at trial showed an officer writing to Abbott, "You all but stroked his genitals the other day, Tanner." Abbott replied, "He liked it." Doesn't this sound like Kevin Spacey? It does, because in one of the allegations, he was trying to do this thing and he grabbed him, and the guy was totally straight and he did not want to do anything with Kevin. This is the alleged thing. And he tells Kevin, he's like, "I don't want it." And then he's all, "No, you want it. You wanted it. You'll like it. You liked it." Some bullshit, right? It's the same response, going back and forth. And then prosecutors said that unlike other incidents that were clearly premeditated, in the incident with WW was not. But the cover-up was carefully orchestrated, with Abbott electing to launder his own falsehood through another officer, thereby drawing a colleague into his criminality. This is such a narcissist thing, the socio thing to do, right? Because they start getting their, flying monkeys. No, it starts going into this thing where, they're going after everybody around to turn everybody into, on their side and talk him into doing things. But anyway, the prosecutors wrote in May. Investigators said they also learned that Abbott pressured a colleague to charge WW with a felony for aggressive advancement on a law enforcement officer, though he knew that had never occurred. Yeah, so he's just making up stuff. Only some minor degree of scruples on Officer Hopper's part prevented this miscarriage of justice from being borne out. Prosecutors urged a judge ahead of sentencing, and this kind of happened with me as well, I think, in my stuff. And it's far more orchestrated. It's far more orchestrated than this, because it was sort of this tail off from something else, and then it set me up for this other conduct, and then it was like nonstop, and then all of a sudden they like hit everything. It was crazy, and there was no way to escape the situation, because even my job was criminal, and so I didn't really understand that my job was really criminal yet at this point. But they knew. The law enforcement knew, and they wanted to keep that up. Anyway, Hopper was not identified by his first name in court records, but the allegations against Abbott, prosecutors said Hopper was present for at least one of the incidents involving a victim, and that he testified about his experience working alongside Abbott. Abbott also covertly recorded video footage on his cell phone of a man walking into the sheriff's office to complain about being sexually assaulted by him. Oh God. That video was shared by Abbott with another deputy, and in accompanying text messages, Abbott mocked the victim. Yeah, one of the law enforcement in Woodland, the guy that I spoke with, they were mocking me in my case, like even when I first called. To bolster the prosecution's claims that Abbott had a long history of using excessive force, at a trial, prosecutors explained how in April 2020, for example, Abbott told a colleague via text that he had beaten the F out of the suspect who was being pursued by police during a car chase. The apparent pride and glee that cell phone evidence showed he took in causing injury, boasting about the severity of injuries he caused on multiple occasions to both his colleagues and his then fiancée. Oh, she'd be get raped too, She's like, "I'm used to it." Can only be described as sadism, prosecutors wrote this May. Well, sadism on its own, like, it doesn't mean that people are going to go run out and start doing these harmful things to everybody and have an enjoyment of doing it and everything like that. I'm trying to figure out how to approach that topic, because there are people that would, they could be sadists. Like, there's a lot of people that have this in them, but it's not a thing where they get enjoyment off of just at random harming people. It's in different context. So I don't know. It's just, they threw it out there like that. So I was kind of like, people will take that like this is just being a sadist. Like, no, not all sadists would sit there and go out and beat everybody up and rape everybody and find enjoyment off of it. So much more evidence was not admitted at trial, though prosecutors said they wanted the judge to be aware of the allegations ahead of sentencing. Prosecutors said that in November 2020, Abbott sent a booking photo to two colleagues that showed a suspect with conspicuous bruises and cuts near his eye and nose. As one responding officer said, it looked like the suspect fell and hit a couple of stairs going down. And another officer blatantly said it looked as if Abbott had punched the suspect twice. Abbott corrected him 3 times, he alleged. He also texted his girlfriend at the time in January 2021 about a brief scuffle and then unsolicited sent her a grisly photograph of the suspect he scuffed with lying in a hospital bed. Oh yeah, that's the guy I want to be with. I mean, you got to question this woman. What the hell? Okay, so the victim was bleeding profusely from several open wounds on his heavily swollen face and vomiting into a bag. Several disturbing allegations about rampant sexual misconduct, too. Over the 2 years that investigators surveyed Abbott, prosecutors said they heard from several individuals that Abbott had used his power to obtain sexual favors. Prosecutors conceded that none of these allegations were established at trial beyond a reasonable doubt, and most did not rise to the level of a federal crime offense. But when weighing his character, prosecutors again asked the court to consider what they had learned. Multiple women who had first met Abbott in his official capacity told investigators he later solicited explicit photos from them, and his work cell phone contained explicit images and videos of women who the government was not able to identify. Oh, what? This is like the lesser offense? Is this what they're going on? One alleged exchange came from after Abbott bragged to a fellow officer about seeing a woman's breasts at a traffic stop. I told you these guys are rapists, dude. They're everywhere, and he's not alone. But this shit right here, yeah, the thing with taking off my blazer top, which was a top. It was a top. It's not just a blazer jacket. It was a top. And took a photo. And I'm like, well, where's this photo? When asked how investigators claim, Abbott replied simply, we stopped her. Yeah, so I got mad stopped and they wanted cash. And I declined and then they did all that. At least 2 other women lodged formal complaints with the sheriff's office alleging Abbott touched them inappropriately during searches. Yeah, they're a bunch of rapists. Any man that acts in this manner is a rapist. It is a non-debatable thing. And so it's infuriating when men who are in charge of all these investigations mostly want to sit there and look at this and go, there's not really a lot of evidence for that or anything like that. It's like, it's literally there. It's literally there. So at least 2 other women lodged complaints with the sheriff's office alleging Abbott touched them. And then a third woman told FBI that Abbott arrested her for drug possession and then forced her to perform oral sex on him and told her she wouldn't go to jail if she complied. So these men, these sheriffs in the LASD that are gangbangers, this guy's probably a gangbanger too, but they were doing stuff like this, like, oh, if you're drunk, just give me a call. And technically, you should be getting arrested for this shit if you're going to drink and drive. But they were legitimately telling these girls to give them a call if they're drunk, and they will follow them home so she won't get, arrested or anything. But when there's an addition to this, because if somebody's drunk, this thing's going to happen. And then it puts them in a position where, like, would you go tell? Because you're like, well, I called them. And I think at that time that those victims probably feel like, oh, well, I partook in this thing and I didn't get in trouble, so therefore I need to cover this up forever, this thing. So I'm trying to get that out there because I know it happened. It is an I know it happened because I seen the card and I know the girl. I haven't seen the girl since that time period, and I don't know if there was any additional conduct in this thing, but yes, I know it happened. Nobody made that up. However, despite her understanding, Abbott would drop the charges if she gave him oral sex. She told that FBI that Abbott later had a different deputy sheriff arrest her on the earlier possession charges after Abbott tried and failed to pressure her into informing on another individual. Okay, so then he retaliates. This is the typical rapist. He's going to retaliate. This is going to be a nonstop thing. So you're constantly going to be in this web of abuse. because you always have to constantly comply with the abuser, and then if you don't, they're going to do something horrible to you. It's a gangbanger, right? It's the same type of thing going on there. Abbott was allegedly disciplined in 2019 after he was found heavily intoxicated in the passenger seat of his squad car while his girlfriend drove. The sentencing memorandum states a year later, prosecutors allege that he was reprimanded for entering a private home late at night without announcing his presence. He was searching for a hit-and-run suspect. He just went inside somebody's house. Is this some small town, man? Like, what the hell? Okay, in 2021, he was unofficially reprimanded, this time because he joined a high-speed police chase while he was supposed to be transporting a person for psychiatric evaluation at a local hospital. His girlfriend was also in the police car during this incident. What the hell? Despite this, he was not fired. I mean, what department is it? Okay, so he was not fired until prosecutors said that his superiors discovered that Abbott had publicly identified a confidential informant on Facebook. Oh, that was the end of it. It was like all the rest of this raping everybody in general. It's not standing a big deal. You just outed one of our guys on Facebook after that informant posted a critical comment about him online. In calling for a sentence anywhere from 151 to 188 months, or roughly 12 to 15 years. Prosecutors said Abbott's behavior was so disturbing that his own biological mother filed a complaint with the sheriff's office about him and posted about his brutality online. But she's part of the guilt in this thing. So, can somebody, what happened here? I was like, what happened here? Because he didn't just become this. What did mom do? Like, how did this happen? Investigators said that as a direct result of her criticism, Abbott started targeting his mother for narcotics. Oh, you gotta love this. The mom might actually be a mega bully. Like, this is something else in this stuff that we're looking at. And yeah, so it's kind of like, is this just a back and forth with two, like, kid and mom, or what is going on here? So he starts targeting his mother for narcotic enforcement activity, and then arrested her on a narcotics charge in September 2021. Now that could be the thing. Maybe mom was always on drugs and then abused the crap out of him, and then he started to become this mega monster as he is, and then did this. Like, something's with this, okay? Yes, there is a push and pull in this thing here. Though there was no information to suggest that her arrest was illegal, but investigators said evidence culled from Abbott's phone made it clear that he targeted his mother for arrest because of what she said about him online. Yes, so that's what we're talking about, targeting. So the targeting I'm getting is because of speaking out on a lot of these things. And so they specifically did very focused things as a retaliation to do harm to me throughout the past few decades. Like my whole life here. So, yeah, versus like, an average person, like you need some evidence to even try to go at, like why would you go try to bust your mom for drugs, and unless you had some information that she was doing them. But then again, it's like, why would you just do it at random? Because you're being a shit fuck. Okay, so, but I think there's something to that as to why he's a monster. Okay, like, there's something in that as to why this happened. Because mom has a drug problem, it sounds like. Did he need to go arrest her? I mean, is she, you know what I mean? So, that's the only reason why he did it. You said something bad about me, so I'm gonna go after you. Okay, so I had all these guys do that, right? So, I was like, wait a minute. And it's not even really bad. It's just me being critical about their bad behaviors, right? And then, in a lighthearted way, we'll sit there and kind of mock them in this sense, because you have to kind of make fun of it sometimes. But this thing here, so it's not like a random targeted attack on, I'm just so I can feel more powerful. It's like a lot of the people that I've pulled up, and even they just did a story on this other guy, and Everybody tries to say, oh, we always viewed them as the nicest person ever up in here. And I go, nope. I mean, I'm just reading it. I'm like, nope. And then he got called out, I guess, for saying some shit. You know what I mean? And and no, so what I'm saying is like it's just people ignoring all their badness that I'm picking up, and they just ignore it and consider it totally fine. And so then I pick it up, and then they start targeting me, and then yeah, there's just been a tank of them, and then all their friends kill everybody and rape everybody, and then they want to come at me, and that's not a thing over here. So shortly before he was fired, prosecutors said they learned that Abbott had targeted a local gas station owner too after the owner shouted at him about obstructing a gas station entrance during a traffic stop. A fellow Boyle County officer allegedly told investigators that after that ordeal that Abbott tried to have him buy synthetic marijuana from the gas station owner for an undercover bust. Abbott allegedly hopped to pin drug trafficking charges on the business owner. Okay, yeah, so that's the thing. So when you piss off a narcissist, they're gonna retaliate. And then you could have done nothing wrong, right? And they'll sit there and they will try to find something. That's why I said, I go, anytime I've said something about government, they have gone out of their way to try to concoct some fake shit and then cause all this chaos and hell. And then it'll take me like a year to 10 years to fucking fix it. And then they never get fired. They never get busted. They do so many cover-ups where it becomes this thing where it's like, they don't even investigate it properly. They'll do a half-ass thing and they don't go back into where I'm talking about. And so they let it just pile up and mound and they do a massive cover-up. That's what's been going on forever. And it's not just one guy. You have one guy in this story, but in my story, it's multiple men. I mean, hundreds of men. And I don't even know half these guys. I don't know none of them, really. But, so we're going at, like, dark monsters. Like, I don't know. I don't know them at all. At trial, Abbott testified on his own behalf and claimed that he was motivated to become a police officer in part thanks to satisfaction he experienced after tackling a handcuffed, shackled female detainee after interviewing in a perceived escape attempt while working as a pizza delivery driver. I told you he's dangerous to be working even as a pizza driver. I know them. I didn't even read the story, you guys. It's just me. I know. We're on top of it. Prosecutors said nearly all of Abbott's victims were weaker than him. I don't like that. All of Abbott's victims he views as weaker than him, and that he was a purposeful, and this was a purposeful choice. Okay, one of his victims wore a leg brace and had a disability. 2 other victims were teenagers. Yes, he's the school bully. He's the school bully. All sociopaths are bullies, okay? They are the bullies. The bullies. He's going to say I was bullied as a child. Now, he may have been by his mom. That is a possibility, but no way did this like develop in school and he just started bullying people when he got older. That's not how it actually comes about. So we need to kind of stop like repeating that thing right there. But it is possible like the parents, the way their parental style was bullying the kid. And so he feels powerful by doing that. And it happens really young. So like really, really young. So that's why I was like, no, they keep saying that I was bullied. But he might actually come out and be like, I was bullied in school. Like, because he'll say, this is why he does this. Let me explain to you why these guys will say something like that. Because when the informant criticized him, it cuts into his ego, right? So right there is where the narcissist will go, I was getting bullied. Totally. So beware of that. Beware of that. They're not actually getting bullied. They're being criticized because he's a piece of shit. So they will flip it around like all sorts of ways. So I was like, taken in context of his crimes, that's alarming admission about his first time use of force on somebody in handcuffs leads to a clear inference that he enjoys hurting people. In his defense, and while seeking leniency ahead of sentencing, Abbott argued that he only ever used appropriate police methods Yeah, okay, so appropriate police methods, a lot of them are violent and bad anyway to begin with. So it kind of enables this guy. He contested the seriousness of the injuries to some of his victims as well. His sentencing memorandum shows. When seeking 20 to 15 years for Abbott, prosecutors said the sentence must be stiff because Abbott's conduct sows fear, hatred, and distrust of officers, even as police leaders expend tremendous effort to build established legitimacy and fight the scourge of violence and drugs in our crime-plagued neighborhoods. No, get that. At no point do they say we respect women, and he's out here raping everybody. That's not something they fight against, right? That's something they promote, and that is something they throw out. So no, and no, the drug crime thing, all that stuff is actually coming from this childhood behavior and the abuses on their parents and religion and this male supremacist garbage. It comes from all this crap right here. And to focus on drugs and the crime plagued neighborhoods is like the after the fact bullshit. But at no time do they say, oh, we respect women and, we're not against rape, because that's what he did here, and violence. The defendant repeatedly used lawlessness, violence to punish petty slights to his ego and authority. That's what this is all about. It's funny that they're trying to separate themselves from that, but that's what the entity was about to begin with. And it was for white men, and they were pro-rape at the get-go. So he used his badge of office to lend a veneer of legitimacy to what would otherwise be the crudest form of personal score settling. Yeah, so what do you think's been going on with everybody? Yeah, personal score setting. I would say it's personal score setting if you're stopping me twice a day. And making threats, and you know what I mean? Like, there's this long run out thing. I go, yeah, I mean, I live in a city where there's millions of people, and it wasn't in the same city, you guys. It was across LA County to Nevada. And it's like, the chances of that means that somebody threw a fucking GPS on my car. And why is this going on? Like, you go on this thing, and it's like, why on earth am I getting targeted? And if I was a criminal, I mean, we're talking a long time ago, you guys, I would have been arrested. You know what I mean? In LA County, I would have been in trouble for some criminal conduct. There would be something there to cause that. There's nothing there. Yeah, you're calling out the right things, you guys. Shared photos and colleagues. Good cops who do not identify and arrest and testify against bad cops are bad cops. Yeah. They're enjoying the criminal conduct. They're part of it. They don't have a problem of him grabbing crotches and doing those things. They were totally fine with sexual conduct. So his fellow violent thugs knew for years, the investigators knew for years, and they kept this rapist, violent pig stay on the streets. They all should be serving LWOP. Correct. They're not against rape. They didn't even mention the correction of, oh, we have rapists up in here. They're fine with the rape part, you guys. Han Solo. Took them long enough to fire this guy, and not fire because of the way he was treating people, but because he released the name of a confidential informant. Yes, correct. Yes. People come last, I suppose. Glad he's going to prison. I suspect bigger guys in prison might punch him a few times in the face. I don't think it's his face he's worried about. No, I don't think he has any problem with anything. So, yeah, they didn't care that he's out raping the public. So the cops that they're dealing with, that are trying to place themselves in some innocent position, are equally as terrible as this guy. Because they're looking at the conduct and they're like, oh, cool, fine. We don't see a problem with you being with us. So what does that mean? That's telling you about those guys, and they haven't even gotten in trouble, and they're like, he's making us look bad. I was like, no, you make yourself look bad. And you're still not having a problem with those issues even at the end of the case here. No!